I think in general, craft beer could benefit from, taking a step back and understanding this is beer. This is the most casual drink of all time. Like, this is for everybody. Anyone should be able to come in here and get a glass of beer with their friend or family and just like take a load off, chill, take it easy. So there's no need to be like pretentious about this. And I think that's where I want to move forward with our brand is just how do we make the generic American lager or Argenta lagers like Maine's craft lager or Maine's kind of macro American adjunct lager.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Tales, Ales, and Trails. This week on the podcast, we've got Ryan Dunlap, owner of Argenta Brewing. Now, this is kind of an interesting connection here because Argenta Brewing is out in Portland, Maine, all the way on the other side of the country. What happened was I started following Ryan on TikTok. He popped up on my For You page, and what he was doing on his personal social was showing a really just behind the scenes look of what it's like to run a brewery in its first few years of operation. Argenta recently celebrated its second year, and he's kind of put a really personal touch on his brewery and shown what it's like, from the inception to now to run this business, to make this beer, to operate a brewery and do so successfully. So I really wanted to pick his brain about what this experience has been like, what are kind of the story behind Argenta itself, and just talk all things beer. So it was a lot of fun. It was a virtual conversation, and I really appreciate Ryan giving me some time to kind of pick his brain about all of these things. If you're not following us on social, you definitely need to. We're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, we're on YouTube, we're on X. Posting every single day, all kinds of content from tales to ales to trails, of course. Uh, but yeah, without further ado, please enjoy this episode with Ryan Dunlap of Argenta Brewing. Cheers. Ryan, thanks so much for being here, man. I really appreciate you getting some time or giving us some time to talk to you. I know we're on a bit of a time difference right now, so it's late on a school night for you. So I appreciate you making the time, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. Yeah, no, happy to be on the podcast. Excited to chat some beer here.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I saw you sipping something. What are you drinking?
I'm drinking a Bunker Brewing Company brown ale. So they're a local brewery here in Portland, Maine. Just like I don't know, they do a good job at all the beers they make. Very clean, easy to drink. I worked there for a summer bartending, so I got a little soft spot for them.
Yeah, of course. I love it. I love it. Well, man, I wanted to talk a lot about obviously Argenta Brewing. But I think we need to start with talking a little bit about you, getting into your background, where you're from, that sort of thing. I know you said off camera or off the recording that you're originally from Nevada.
Yeah,
Um,
totally. So originally I'm from Reno, Nevada, like Carson, Reno area. Went to college out there. So I have like three generations of family that kind of grew up in the Reno area. So it's definitely like my home, where my family's from, and definitely love that place. But currently living in Portland, Maine, and running our Argenta Brewing Company out here. We've been just did 2 years this past weekend actually.
yeah, really exciting stuff. What brought you over to the East Coast originally?
Yeah, so in college at the University of Nevada in Reno, I was studying accounting, and my whole plan was I'm gonna like become a CPA, work in corporate accounting, do that thing. And after like 4.5 years of school, I was like, man, I don't know if I can do the desk job anymore. I worked a couple seasons in tax. I worked a season for Toyota doing like accounts receivable, accounts payable.
Yeah,
And it was tough for me just to sit at a desk all day and not be tangibly doing something with my hands. Um, so I kind of had a big realization my last year of school of, well, I can always take an accounting job, bookkeeping, whatever later in life, but I might not always get the opportunity just to go do a random job for 6 months. I don't, I'm not in a relationship. I didn't have any kids or anything. So I started applying to jobs in the beer industry all over Pacific Northwest, like Oregon, Washington, and then New England. Most of it because I just kind of thought those areas were interesting. I had briefly visited both in the past when I was younger, and I randomly got a job in Bar Harbor, Maine, where Acadia National Park is at Atlantic Brewing Company for like a minimum wage tour guide bartender job. And I was interested in craft beer. I did a little home brewing in college with some buddies. And I thought it'd be a great opportunity to go do something for 6 months. Again, like I said, it's like I could always do something else.
Yeah.
So, like 2 or 3 days after I graduated, me and my friend packed up the car, drove across the country in like 3 days, and I started that job up there. And I've been in the beer industry since 2019, and no looking back. It's been fantastic.
Yeah. Was there something about once you started getting into the industry itself? I know you said you had done some home brewing and stuff back in college. Was there something about the industry itself that kind of drew you in when you first started?
Yeah, I mean it's kind of hard to like totally pinpoint it sometimes, but something about the whole process, how it's very much like SOP driven and process driven, just really spoke to me. It's like every step along the way has a best practice of how to do it. And if you follow the steps properly, you end up with a really cool product at the other end. So I think I was just kind of drawn to, the big stainless tanks and the bottling line and the kegs and the draft systems. And all the people I met in the industry were just like the most laid back, cool people ever. So I was like, this is great. I just came from like corporate accounting jobs and then jump right into that. And I was like, this is awesome. Like, there's no boss wearing a tie who's mad at you for, whatever reason. It's just, the whole vibe of the industry really spoke to me. And again, that was in 2019, so it's like the pre-COVID era of craft beer. That may have been the peak of craft beer. Like if we really start to think about it, like I think we peaked in 2018, 2019. So I got in at a good time, I think.
Yeah, yeah, it's such a, shift in culture going from that corporate desk job kind of atmosphere to craft beer, which, like you said, there's a lot of really laid back, really fun people in that space. I mean, it's no wonder why it draws so many people, you included. I wanted to ask you because you've mentioned this a couple of times on social that you worked pretty much every job there is to work in a brewery. I mean, especially now being an owner. But um, is there one role in craft beer in particular, one job that you've enjoyed the most, and is there one that's been maybe the most challenging since you've really run the gamut of the working all these different roles?
Yeah, I mean, the best job in craft beer is working on a packaging team at like a mid-sized brewery. I don't know. I did at Sebago Brewing Company in Gorham, Maine, which is just outside of like Greater Portland. I worked on the packaging team for just about 2 years there, and I don't know exactly like how many barrels we did a year, but we were canning like 80 barrels a day, 5 days a week, pretty much. So it was like we had a team of like 6 people on the packaging uh, team. It was just fun because, look, you don't get paid a lot. I was making like $14 an hour. It's hard work. You're just, stacking cans and cleaning kegs all day. But like it's kind of that camaraderie of like the group that's doing that is just like gung ho about it. They're excited. They show up to work. They work their butt off every day. Um, and I think it's like an underrated part of the industry too, because especially like when I was learning how to get into the beer industry, it's like brewing is like, oh my God, you brew. This is so crazy. But at the end of the day, it's like if your can has high DOs, it doesn't matter how well the beer was brewed. It's like that is so crucial that packaging is taken care of properly. And I was fortunate enough to be on a really great team, and I have a lot of respect for that brewery, Sebago. Um, they take pride in their work and they really care about the little things. And it's like you're just being in the trenches every day, but your work pays off because it's like you look back and you just, package 90 barrels of like Hayes Forward IPA, and you're like, that was, that was pretty cool. That's pretty awesome. Like it's a tangible thing you have at the end of the day, and then you can crack one open at the end of the line and like tastes great. We did that.
I worked exactly 1 week in the packaging department at Sierra Nevada. It was a situation where I was in between jobs. Like I was starting a job in a couple of weeks. I was like, I'm just gonna, get some temp work at Sierra Nevada. What the heck? Could be fun. Uh, Packaging mixed 12 packs. And I mean,
Yeah.
everything you just said like rings so true. Like there's a lot of really good people working in those spaces, and it's hard work, man. Like the people who are talented at it and can move cans, move bottles really fast, really quickly. Uh, you build a respect for them really quickly because when you get up to the front and you're try, trying to keep on pace with everything, it's a little nuts, but it's a fun place to be for sure.
Oh,
Uh,
exactly. And I'm sorry, you spoke about like a more
yeah,
difficult part of the industry. And that's a tough one because I think every role in beer has like fun parts and it is cool. Like it's a fun industry, like top to
yeah,
bottom. Like even doing like working on like the books for a brewery. It's fun to see like your cost of goods and your labor costs and all that. Uh, but no, like ownership is obviously, I think, like the most stressful and like anxiety inducing of all of the roles.
sure.
Um, but I guess it's like if we truly had to like stack it up, like packaging, it might be the best and the worst because it's like you don't get paid a lot. It's nothing but manual labor. But you have like some of the coolest coworkers and it's a fun job. So it's like a
Yeah,
little bit of both.
a little bit of both. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Um, I'm always really fascinated by how the idea to start a brewery came to be. I've heard it from a lot of different people about how they kind of found themselves thinking about, man, what if I started my own brewery? What would that look like? What did that look like for you?
Yes. I mean, starting a brewery was quite quite a bigger process than I anticipated, and I knew it was like a big feat to start with, but it was more than I thought it would be. Um, I've actually had like a lot of self realization lately where I've never been able to work a job for more than like year and a half or so without just getting really frustrated at something there and then just kind of wanting to move on to the next thing. Um, so for me, it's like I think I've always had kind of a an entrepreneurial spirit, if you will. I know that's like kind of everyone wants to say that these days, but I've always kind of like thought that way. I've always thought in like a business mindset, like lemonade stands every weekend when I was a kid and stuff like that. But I think the big shift for me was like one of the last brewing jobs I had. The company kind of collapsed. There was like an owner debacle. Um, and I kind of like quit the job out of frustration of just like this is run so poorly, but there's so much opportunity for this place just to crush it. And it's just like we're leaving so much on the table here that it was more of a frustration thing than anything. And as I left that job, I was like, if these guys can do this and still like make it this long, like 8 or 9 years, I was like, I've got to be able to pull this off, right? Like surely I can do this. And that might be like the naive mindset you need to actually jump into something like that. But I think that was kind of the catalyst of it was frustration and just thinking like I think I can do this too. Um, so kind of rationalizing with yourself that this is a tangible thing that I can actually probably accomplish. It's just going to take a while. So for me, it was probably 2 years before we actually signed a lease on anything of like planning and legwork and prep before we signed a lease and actually like got to work on opening the business. So it was a lot of behind the scenes of, all the legal and, we were looking for a location for like a year and a half. So it took a while, but yeah, I mean, it was just, kind of out of frustration of a former brewing job that just wasn't meeting my needs, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. You mentioned all the excuse me. You mentioned all of the behind the scenes work of, trying to kind of, you know, turn this thing into a reality. Was there something or some hurdle that was kind of the biggest challenge for you in getting Argenta into from turning that idea of like, hey, I could really do something here. I feel like I can make this happen. Taking that idea and making it a real tangible thing. Was there one challenge that above all else was pretty tough for you?
I wouldn't say there's like one thing in particular. I mean, obviously, it's like you need to find funding, whether that be like private financing or the bank, or in my case, it was kind of a combination of everything.
Sure.
Um, you need to find a location that works. Um, it was, I don't know. I think going into that whole process, I had enough of like, I'm just going to figure it out along the way mindset. And I've kind of had that mindset for most of my life that I'll like grind it out regardless of what it takes and make it happen. Um, which again is like probably looking back, not the best way to go about it. But in the time, that's just like the way I had it. It's like figure out everything you can, and you don't know what you don't know, but you have to keep moving and try to get to the next stage. I think looking for a location was tough.
Yeah.
Like I said, it was about a year and a half. I had a real estate broker who was, pretty well recommended to me. And a lot of the spots I looked at, I think we looked at like locations before we settled on the one we're in now. And it's like you get excited about it because like, you're looking around, you're visualizing it, but all the locations I looked at were basically empty shells, like an old warehouse, converted commercial space. Um, I think that was probably one of the hardest parts of the startup process, at least, because I didn't really, in hindsight, I didn't really understand enough about like what should our rent cost be in percentage to our gross sales. Like I didn't really have a
Sure.
good grasp on that. Kind of the I was spacing on the benchmarks for
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the industry. So it's like I didn't have a great grasp on that kind of knowledge before I went into it. So it was more just trying to find like you know, what can I plug into Excel and it kind of makes sense. Which is like a little scary to go into and to assign a lease, but it's find a location that you actually think is going to bring foot traffic and pay the bills every month because that's like the most real thing of this whole process, and that's for me has been the most difficult thing over the past 3 or 4 years is just the financial side of it. It's just money is real every month and you need it every week. You need to have cash in the bank to pay the bills, and that is priority number one sometimes.
Yeah, it has to be, right? I mean, especially
Yeah.
with the state of how things are in 2026. I mean, you said a few minutes ago that beer probably peaked in 2018, 2019, and there's unfortunately probably a lot of truth in that, right? Ken Grossman, when we talked to him, it was kind of wild to hear him say that there's probably too many breweries. Like it's an interesting environment, but um, I wanted to ask you, thinking about where you're at, you know, from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, your area of that part of the country, well regarded for craft beer, lots of great breweries. Starting out as a brand new brewery, um, there's got to be. I'm always curious about this. There's always got to be this, like, okay, I've got this idea. I think I can do this really well. How do I get people to find out who we to like? How do I get the word out? How do I break through the noise of all of the great beers that are already out there? Was there a plan for that? How did you go about, you know, spreading the word about Argenta in those early days?
Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of went about that in a couple ways. The first way, like, is our whole ethos and what our business does. So, for anyone not familiar, Argenta, we only brew lagers. That's kind of our thing. And not from some pretentious standpoint of like, these are the best beers. And if you don't drink or brew lagers perfectly, and not like that standpoint, but it's more of the standpoint of like, I'm looking at the data from 2022, 2023, and seeing like, okay, the only beers who are really growing are lager styles. You know, it's American lagers, it's Pilsners. Everything else wasn't really seeing the growth that it once was. And then kind of plugging two and two together, it's like, okay, these beers are growing. I love drinking these beers. I know all of my friends love drinking the beers. It's like, what's the most popular beer style in the world by far? Lager styles. It's like, what do most people drink? So it's like, if I'm going to start a brewery in 2024 in a very crowded beer market in Portland, Maine, I cannot be doing what everyone else is doing. I can't just be another IPA factory.
Yeah.
And I really had to, I think, double down on that and say, we're only brewing lagers because we need to stand out in our community and we need to do something different than what everyone else is doing. And we definitely have gotten some degree of backlash in a way doing that. Like, you'll get the people coming in asking like what IPAs you have on draft, and like, actually we don't have any. But try this, Italian pilsner, and it has nice like floral hoppy notes. You might love it, and then they generally do. Um, so I think by design we intended to stand out, and I think that helps with word of mouth a little bit, where it's like, at least Portland, Maine alone is a city of 60,000 people. It's not that big.
Yeah.
But the great area, let's call it 250,000 or something. There's within 20 minutes of Portland, or in Portland, there's got to be like 40 breweries. So it's
Right.
a
Right.
ton. It's super concentrated there, which is great because we get a lot of beer tourism from Massachusetts, from New York, kind of, the greater East Coast. So again, for us, it's like, let's double down on something that no one else is really doing in the area. There's some people doing stuff very similar. But it's like, let's double down on that in Portland. I want to be in Portland so people can walk there, and we're a very accessible location. Um, and that's just like how we're going to build the business. And then from the once we open standpoint, how do we get people in the door? Because I think that was one of the hardest things for me to really wrap my brain around is, oh, like I'm so sucked into this every day. Our staff is so in this, our friends and family is so in this, but it's like the average person down the street has no idea we're even open. So we need to get them to know that we're open. So for us, that was TikTok, Instagram. We've done some stuff on YouTube, but it's really like the social media marketing. Um, but I was trying to take it in a little bit of a different way than what I've seen all the breweries do, all the places I've worked for and in the area. They kind of do the same cookie cutter. Here's a picture of a beer that a photographer took. That may have worked on Instagram 7 years ago, but that does not bring people in the door in 2026.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I kind of took the approach of, let's show that behind the scenes that no one else is talking about. Like, I'm gonna go on TikTok and tell you how much money we lost this month, and tell you like what's actually going on running a business in this city. And I think a lot of people have resonated with that, and they like the transparency. They like that I'm showing what's actually happening. I mean, I can go on a whole rant about that strategy, but I mean, I think people like they want to see like what's actually going on, and they want to see what's real, not what you want them to see.
Yeah. I'm so glad you went there because I've literally got a point written out to ask you about, and this is something you've talked about on social media, the idea of being a founder led brand. Um, because cards on the table, I started following you way before I even knew what Argenta was, because
Mhm.
I saw you talking about your brewery, being super transparent about the day to day existence of being a brewery owner, being a small brewery owner. I'm like, this is this is accessible. This is stuff I find really interesting. Not a lot of people are really pulling the curtain back and kind of telling it like it is on a regular, consistent basis. Um, I know that you've had a really good reception to that. I mean, um, has there been any concerns about that approach? I mean, do you ever feel like maybe I shouldn't be sharing this or talking about this in this way? I don't see why you. I don't. How do I say this? I don't think you've ever said anything controversial, but you're really laying it exactly like it is, and it's refreshing. But I sometimes am like, man, is he ever worried that he's putting too much out there for everybody to see? Like,
Yeah. No, I mean, I know exactly like what you're talking about there. And the more I do it and the more I get into it, I think, no, I don't
yeah,
think I'm not trying to hide anything. And
right,
I think we've been in, especially on social media, we've been in such a world for, I don't know, like 8 to 10 years. I don't know how long Instagram's really been popular, but let's call it that long, that people are so used to seeing like very put together photography on there, and that's what they associate with the brand, is the very put together, picturesque. But as I've like studied social media over the past 4 years and really tried to understand and learn how it functions and what people actually follow and share and like, it's not that. It's they want to see what's going on. I mean, a few accounts that have been following for a while is there's one called Poor Boy Coffee. I think he was out of San Francisco, and he just showed like his profit and loss for like every day he ran a coffee pop up. Another great one is the Nitro Bar in Rhode Island, where they're a
Mm.
coffee shop and they just talk about funny scenarios with their baristas and like what coffee will make you poop the most. Um, and there's a lot of accounts like that and I think the common variable in all of this is they're not selling you a damn thing. All they're doing is talking about kind of the tangential things of the business, but not saying like, come and buy this beer, because no one wants to hear that. And
No.
I think a lot of people that are producing content on there are only looking at it through their lens of like the business owner of like, of course, I want to sell my product on here, but you need to look at it from the consumer's lens. Like, when are you on TikTok? I'm laying in my bed scrolling on that at 1 in the morning. I'm not really worried about you selling me a beer. I want to be entertained, make me laugh. So it's like that's the way that I think I've tried to you know do this in. And I think I'm just an honest person and transparent. I'd like to be with my staff and our customers. And if someone asks me a question, like, I'm going to answer it honestly. So I thought, well, might as well share that with the world. Maybe they'll think that's cool too. And people enjoy it because they know there's nothing else. Like, I'm not hiding any secrets
Yeah.
from them. And
Yeah.
and people respect that, I think.
Yeah. Well, I think it's authentic, right? I think people see authenticity in what you're doing. And I think so much about what breweries are and what they can be today. And a lot of it is, creating a space for people to come together, a comfortable, welcoming environment, um, and you kind of showing your personality on in your content. Uh, Probably does a lot of that work for you in terms of like, oh, this guy's really cool. His brewery is probably really cool. Let's go check it out. I mean, I think I can't help but think there's got to be some parallels, some connections there to, showing authentic side of yourself that then translates to, giving people a good idea of what you and your brewery is all about.
Yeah, I mean, like, very, very true. I don't bartend as much now as I was the first year we were open. Just I was able to hire and delegate, which is great and the goal. But I do hear from our staff, and in that first year and a half that we were open, that you get a lot of people coming through the door, and they're like, "I found you on TikTok, or I saw you on Instagram, and that's the only reason I'm here." Or I might get noticed at like a random store walking down the street or something, and like, "You're the Argenta guy." So, and not saying it as I'm trying to be a celebrity, but it's saying it like people see it. It's like when you get a million views on something, you're bound to have some people come and check out your business after that.
Yeah.
That's just like how this works. And I think in 2026, not recognizing the power of, let me say this, it's free to make videos on social media. It doesn't cost you any money at all. So it's like if I make a video that gets over 2 million views and costs me 20 minutes of my time and one beer, it's like that's crazy. So people come in because they see us on social media all the time. That's probably not even probably, that is the main reason that people know that we exist and come in and actually spend money there. And they tell us, our customers will say, I saw you on TikTok. I've been following you there. I'm excited to see the process. I'm not selling them anything there. I'm just saying, here's how we clean a fermenter, full stop. And then they're like, that's cool. Let's go buy beer. It's just kind of how it works, I think, in this age.
Keep it on the same kind of idea of being authentic, showing a part of yourself, being really, really transparent with the stuff you're putting out there. One of the things I've kind of really been kind of fascinated about is you've talked a lot about self care as a small business owner. You know, taking the time to take care of yourself, essentially. And I think that's something that really can get lost. And you said it yourself, it can get lost a lot when you're trying to, run a successful business. But it's hugely important. It's probably tied, I would think, extremely directly into how you run a business, how you operate it, the success of it. Um, why was it important to you to kind of make that point and talk about self care? And I guess more importantly, can you talk about why self care is important to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's like two main points for me. Um, Going back to like college, I suffered a lot of mental health issues, and it was a tough time in my life, and that's kind of part of why I wanted to go do something new and leave the accounting jobs I was doing. Is like I was just things were miserable, like plenty of depression caked in there. So I think part of moving cross country, taking a low paid job that's like in theory low stress, feel something new was like a big part of me kind of focusing on myself a little bit and saying, I can always go back and do that. But right now it's like things are not going great. And I kind of want to turn that around. So that was like a big part of that. And then I think the other second point is like the first year we were in business, I'm working like 7 days a week, 80-hour weeks physically, not to mention you're on your phone, on social media, emails, texts all the time.
Yeah.
So I really wasn't working out. I wasn't eating well. I was barely sleeping, just doing absolutely everything wrong. And there's plenty I could have done better, but at the time it was like, I just feel like I have no time to do anything except for this. I don't have time to go to the gym or, cook, a healthy meal or sleep enough. Um, so in the last year, or let's call it 8 months or so, I've really kind of trying to focus on, okay, I need to be sleeping. I need to be going to the gym a few days a week and running and, taking care of myself and sleeping and doing things to keep work at work. Forever I had like we use the square point of sales. Forever I would just be constantly like if I wasn't at work and someone else is covering the bar, I'd just be pulling that up all the time and like stressing about we're not busy enough. Um,
Right.
but
Right.
but then it's like at the end of the night, all you're doing is just causing anxiety for literally no reason because you can't do anything at that point. So it's like for me, it's like delete that, stop getting notifications on things, like unsubscribe from emails you don't need to see, um, because it's like if you're not able to be in a decent headspace, you can't make any good decisions, and if you can't do that, then the business is going to suffer because of it. And I'm not saying I do like a great job at it, but over the past 8 months or so, I've definitely improved that. And part of it, honestly, is we started a running club at Argenta. It's every Monday night at 6. Um, Last summer's like last July, we started it as just me and one of my employees were like, that could be a fun idea. She had a bunch of friends who were runners, and we started it, and like a dozen people showed up. And like, that's pretty cool. Like, that's crazy. 12 people showed up for this. Let's go run 4 miles and then come back and have a couple beers. And we have been doing the run club for like a year and a half now. There's like a very solid group that comes. I think our peak, we had almost 90 people show up one day to it last summer. Um, so and then I guess my point is like that kind of got me into like, what if I start running a little bit? And I think forcing yourselves to be in environments that are more beneficial for you or helpful. So it's like, all right, if I show up, a couple times a month to that, I'm running, I'm chatting with people, I'm staying active. Um, so it's like, yeah, taking care of yourself is no joke. And a big goal of mine this year is to kind of double down on that even more because it's like, what if, a third of the hours I was working, I really wasn't functioning very well because I wasn't in great shape, because I wasn't eating well, sleeping well. And what if I can kind of improve that and then lower the hours I'm working, but be more efficient when I'm there? So take care of yourself. I mean, it's definitely no joke. And if you don't do that, it's like being on an airplane. They're like, put on your mask before you help someone else. If
Yeah.
you're not in a good mental space, you cannot help anyone else. And if you can't help anyone else, it's like everything will suffer.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, you said that maybe you're not doing as great of a job as you would like and you're still working on it, but half the battle is making that effort, right? And
Yeah.
identifying that, hey, I want to, make this a healthy, a healthier existence, I guess you could say. Um,
Yeah.
I,
And can I make
y-
can I I'm gonna make
Please,
a note on that too, just like
please,
being in the alcohol industry. I think it's really easy for people just to say, especially if you like work at a brewery or own a brewery, it's like you have kind of unlimited access to alcohol, which is can be a very slippery slope for people. And I've worked places where you see the owner come in and have like 10 beers, and it's tough to see because that's obviously unhealthy, to
yeah,
do on a regular basis. And having that access, if you're not disciplined and have like a plan, is truly dangerous and can ruin lives. So I think this industry, more than anything, is you need to really make that a priority to have your boundaries and not overdo it.
yeah, 100%, completely agree. I mean, even from the outside looking in, knowing a lot of folks in this industry, that is such a challenging facet of it, right?
Yeah.
Um, I want to ask you, you mentioned at the start of our discussion here that you guys just hit your 2 year anniversary. Huge milestone. I mean, I'm sure it's been a pretty crazy couple of years for you. Another milestone, you were named one of the best breweries of 2025, or sorry, best new breweries in 2025 recently, by a publication. Um, Couple of questions about these milestones. Looking at the first 2 years of Argenta, this is going to be a really open-ended question. I think purposefully so. What's the journey been like? I'm sure it's been crazy. I'm sure it's been uh, memorable. Like, in a nutshell, what's these first 2 years been like for you?
Yeah, I mean, actually, funny enough, made a video about this recently where I said I think the first like running this business has just been like stress inducing, anxiety inducing, and just fear inducing for myself. Um, but I think that's like any small business startup where I don't have some big cash buffer sitting behind me I can rely on. It's like this is my money I need to pay rent with personally and buy groceries with. So it's like I have to make this work. Um, that's like kind of the side of it's going to be scary. And I think
Yeah,
anything worth doing that you're really excited about, you're going to have moments where you're unsure and you're not, you're worried about paying your bills next week. That's how it goes.
yeah,
That's a business where put it all on the line and really try to make it work and really try to grow. But if we kind of like step back a little bit, I think you know, the time before we actually opened was a lot of like theoretical thinking and like, well, if we make this amount of money, I'll make this profit and here's what we'll do. But the second you sign a lease and you start paying rent every month and utilities every month and you hire an employee, those are not like hypotheticals anymore. Those are money is due on this day every single week. No questions asked, hard stop. Um, and I bring up the financial side a lot because for me that was like the most eye opening thing. I like to say this because like I think I grew up in a household where I didn't have to think about are we gonna have dinner tonight. It was just kind of like I was fortunate enough to be grow up in an environment where that wasn't a question for me. So kind of like as I was older and opened this business, it was like, oh my God, like I might not be eating dinner tonight because I have $8 in my bank account and we have to make payroll tomorrow. Um, but that's okay. It's like you need to go in with those expectations of like you are going to struggle in a sense, but you need to be ready for it, and that's okay. So it's like the first year of actually being open was very just put in the work, like show up 7 days a week, you're bartending, you're brewing, you're working 14-hour days sometimes. It's just kind of you need to just make it work and you're just drowning 24/7. And then I think as we actually luckily got some traction, sales increased, all of that, it was slowly starting to make more strategic decisions of okay, how do we actually plan for growth in the next like 6 months to a year, not just how do we survive to next week. And like I was able to kind of cross that threshold, I think we started making better decisions and making decisions that actually made the company money, made us a bit more profitable. It's like for me, and those were really like, all right, we need to have an opening checklist of the bar, closing checklist. We run inventory every Wednesday. We do our orders on Thursdays, whatever it is. And it's like you start sticking to that schedule and really locking it in. Um, and enough grinding and enough, customers eventually come in that you're able to afford to hire someone else, and then you can take your time and focus on improving systems or selling more beer. So it's like the first year was just like it's like traumatic in a sense. Looking back, I was like, I don't want to do that again. I'm glad I went through it, but I don't want to go back to that, man. It's like I slept so little, it was incredible.
Yeah.
But then like in our second year of business that we just finished up here is a lot more of, okay, we have a little bit more wiggle room. Let's really focus on our operations. Like my time is best spent not bartending 8 hours a day. It's probably best spent making sure we have enough ingredients to brew tomorrow and making sure our systems and operations are good, and kind of all of that stuff. And the schedule is clean and efficient and our labor costs are where they need to be. So this, year two was, hiring bartenders and systematizing things and being good support for them. And kind of halfway through our second year, we decided we need to start distributing our beer via a distributor. So in Maine, you can self distribute your beer if you're under like 50,000 barrels a year produced, which is like two breweries in the state maybe hit that. So I was self distributing kegs for the first year and a half, literally just like me driving around in my Subaru to like a bar around the street, dropping off a keg, losing money on it, and then driving back and bartending all night. But it was like, starting to get in that process. And after I did that for, a year and a half, I was like, we are not making money on this. This is exhausting. They'd call me up and like, can you come clean the lines? And I was like, oh my God, yeah, I'll do it. But it was killing me. So we had luckily been getting kind of pestered by a local distributor that does a lot of craft brands, good reputation in the area. And they've been pestering us literally like damn near since we opened. And they're like, hey, even if you just have a couple logs here and there, like we'll take them, we'll sell them, like whatever you want to do, man. Um, so my thought was like, all right, how do we make this work? Because this is incredibly inefficient. I know my time is best spent not doing these like kind of smaller mundane tasks. So I figured out, what if we're able to contract some brew, have another brewery brew us beer on a larger scale that we can then sell to the distributor and they can sell and distribute it. So that's what we ended up doing about halfway through our second year of operations. And that allowed us to can some beer too,
Yeah.
get beer in cans, and then start with the distributor relationship, which has been a huge increase for us in 2025. And in 2026, I think we're going to see some fantastic growth with that. But yeah, year two was a lot more of like, all right, let's put on the business cap and actually track our numbers, track our cogs, like really lock in on all this. And I think year three for me is going to be even more so. Like I'm trying to hire and delegate a brewer. So I'm not brewing anymore. I'm not bartending anymore. I'm just making sure like the machine can run itself and I am there to support everyone,
Yeah.
more or
Yeah.
less.
Definitely. And that's actually right where I was going. I mean, looking ahead, what's next for Argenta? You mentioned a little bit of it there about what the plans are, but where's Argenta going?
Yeah. I mean, like, again, for anyone not familiar with our brand, we do only lagers. In our tasting room, we have 5 Lucre faucets that we serve off of. We have the big old half-liter dimple mugs, not because we're necessarily trying to be like a Czech style place. I've just always really enjoyed beers poured off a Lucre. I love the mouthfeel. And part of it too was I knew that at our tasting room, I wanted it had to be more of an elevated experience. It can't just be like walking into your local dive bar. Like you're paying $8 for a half-liter beer, you're not paying $4. So it's like you need that elevation, you need that better experience. So for us, it's like draft tower right in the front of the bar, so the bartender's not turning it back to you. You're pouring off this like beautiful German-made dimple half-liter mug on the Lucre faucets right in front of the customer. You're chatting with them. It's like we're doing everything right. It's a clean glass. It's cool. Like the process is good. You have the right amount of foam. So for us, that was always about, we need to make this a good experience for the customer and put the customer number one,
Yeah.
you know right away because that's who's buying it.
Right.
Like,
That's who matters. Yeah.
yeah, and it's like I think I've been to enough places where like this is so clunky of an operation. It's like no one thought about how the customer would walk through the door and walk up to the bar. Like that's all that matters. It's like
Yeah.
we don't have some I don't know. I don't want to call it bad, but like the untapped menu on, a screen
Yeah.
that's like ripping
Yeah.
by. It's like we knew that we wanted to have the hospitality side as well. So we have physical printed menus that when you walk in, our bartenders hand you the menu, say, here it is, like, ask any questions, things about that. Cause there's, statistically, you get more of a personal touch when someone is physically handing you a menu. It's like it's that touch point right there that puts us, at least on a hospitality side, a little bit above just staring at a confusing board.
Yeah.
And part of this too is like kind of where I'm going is our beers are simple. They're all very clean and drinkable. The whole idea is you can have a couple of our beers in one sitting, and they're not 9% for the most part. They're all like 4.5, 5. They're very chilled, clean beers where your palate's not wrecked. You can have it with a meal. Um, so, I mean, we had a meeting with our distributor a couple weeks ago, and our flagship beer is called the generic American lager. Like, that's the name of the beer. All of our beers don't have a name. Our, Schwarzbier is called the black lager. We made a Munich Dunkel called the Munich Dunkel. So it's like, I want this to be approachable for non craft beer drinkers as well. Like, if you go into a bar and see a beer called generic American lager, you don't really have any questions about what it is. Um, and then ideally you see it's from Argenta, it's going to be awesome. But it's like moving forward, it's like, at our uh, meeting with the distributor and the whole sales team was kind of talking about that. Like, this is approachable beer that's made with all local Maine ingredients. It's incredibly high quality. It tastes great. And anyone can have it. You don't need to be a craft beer connoisseur to recognize what this style is. This is for everybody. So I think going forward, it's just kind of getting that volume of beer out in the market for distribution. It's locking in on our procedures of the tasting room. Um, and it's just being like open and friendly with people. I think there are enough beer places that are kind of snobbish in a sense and not very welcoming to someone who doesn't know craft beer that it turns a lot of people off to it. And there's like a definitely a time and place for like a really high end like Belgian beer bar. Like that's awesome. I'm all about that.
Yeah.
But I think in general, craft beer could benefit from, taking a step back and understanding this is beer. This is the most casual drink of all time. Like this is for everybody. Anyone should be able to come in here and get a glass of beer with their friend or family and just like take a load off, chill, take it easy. So there's no need to be like pretentious about this. And I think that's where I want to move forward with our brand is just how do we make the generic American lager or Argenta lagers like Maine's craft lager or Maine's kind of macro American adjunct lager. Um, a bit of a lofty goal, I suppose. I mean, I don't know as much about like California American lagers, but I think of like Narragansett's a really big one in New England, Montucky Cold Snack,
Yeah. Yeah.
kind of styles like that, where it's like they're like a little craftier, I suppose, like then your Anheuser-Busch and Miller and
Sure.
stuff. But it's like how do we kind of be just the staple for you want a beer? This is the beer, you know?
Yeah. Every time I talk to someone, they come up with a new line that's my favorite line in this podcast. I think Ryan calling beer the most casual beverage in history might be my one of my new favorite lines. That is such a just, you know, simple but to the point like characterization of what this is. It tracks for sure. Um,
Totally.
I wanted to ask you, looking at the experience of Argenta so far, like you said, a little bit of PTSD from the beginning, a lot of a lot of hard work that went into making this what this is today. Um, what's been the most rewarding part about this journey so far? What's filled your cup the most?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a few things. I think being able to like, I don't know, we had like a Christmas staff dinner I think right before Christmas time. And we have 3 to 4 bartenders, and then we have a permanent food truck on our patio too, which was a huge addition this past summer. And just like getting to see this whole group of people that, 2 years ago, complete strangers didn't know existed. Now as, friends and colleagues and people that kind of care about this place, and that work there and that enjoy themselves. It's kind of crazy to see that we have just like brought together this group of people out of thin air practically, um, that are all a part of this too. It's like I feel like a con artist sometimes. And I was like, this is crazy that you guys work here, that anyone is still here. It's like I'm like a lunatic, and then all of you guys are showing up to work every day with a smile on your face. I was like, wow, this thanks for being here. This is nuts. Um, so I think it's like that aspect of the staff is incredible, and I think I've always had the philosophy of, and I did learn this in like business school. I forget what the company was we were studying, but it's like put the staff as number one. Like treat the staff before you treat the customers. So it's like I say this to everyone we hire is I am here to support you first and foremost, then we can deal with the customer. Because it's like if I treat a bartender really well and I'm actually getting to know them and like they know that I'm here to support them, they're more likely to treat the customer well. Um, and it's just like saying like I care about you as a person. If you want another job and you're more interested in something else, I'll help you go get another interview somewhere. I'm not going to hold a grudge against you.
Yeah.
Um, and I tell that to everyone, and I hope if they ever see this, I hope they know that also. It's like that's truly how I feel about it because we've all had bad bosses who are just kind of assholes, and it's like dude, this is just a job. You show up and get your paycheck, and you go home. Like you are not the owner. That is my responsibility to do all that other stuff. It's not your job. Your job description is do exactly what's on your job description. Don't do any more. There's no need for it. You're not getting paid enough for that. Um, so there's like the staff side, and then I think it's like the customer and community side, and we try to say it a lot is like we really care about our community, and I think that word gets thrown around too much, but we really try to do a lot of events. So it's like, oh, we have dozens and dozens of little pop up businesses that maybe they make candles or they make plants and cups that they want to sell or cutting boards or
Yeah.
permanent jewelry. Like we love hosting stuff like that. It's fun because I've been there when you had nothing, and it's kind of cool when someone gives you an opportunity. And it's like, we're not charging you a vendor fee. It's like, show up here. We're here to support you. We'll help you with marketing and stuff. Like that stuff's great. And then just having customers who show up after years. So I was doing a bartending shift a couple weekends ago, and this couple who comes in, they're pretty regular on like Saturdays, rolled in and they're like, yeah, remember when you guys first opened and all of your draft lines froze literally the day you opened and you had no beer to serve? And I was like, I do remember that. And that was some real trauma. We literally opened on a Friday at 2 o'clock. I go to pour the first beer, nothing. I checked
No.
every draft line, all of them froze like the second we opened. So for the next half hour, I'm like ripping HLT water through all the draft lines and like just having a panic attack, trying to hold it together until we get some beer flowing. But this customer, this couple at the bar was like, we were like your second customers that day. I was like, that's so incredible that they've been there for 2 years and they're still showing up every week and they love it and they bring friends. And that again, that's one of those things like, really, you're still here? Like
Yeah.
that's crazy to me that we created this, the staff and myself, and you're still here. Like you still care about us and want to show up. Yet I don't think I'll ever get over that concept of like this was nothing 3 years ago. This did not exist. And now it's a tangible business, a place that people can come to 7 days a week. Um, yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. That is, I get goosebumps hearing people talk about stuff like that. I mean, that how special that must be to, be able to, and I know you said the word is used probably too often, but to build that community, to build that culture around your place of business. And like you said, it starts with making sure the people that work there feel valued, feel um, like they like what they do matters, and that translates over into people having really great experiences at your brewery. And then the thing I just, as we were talking about it, about, supporting these other local independent vendors, that's really just being good stewards, right? Being a good supporter of other folks, businesses, initiatives in your area. And I think all of those things, there's all kinds of different breweries out there. But to me, the through lines I always see are the people who care about the people that work for them, have taken the time to invest in creating a great, comfortable experience for the people that go there, and are also huge supporters of their community, and are willing to do the work to be those good stewards. And we're on complete opposite sides of the country, but I can tell just from talking to you that's exactly what you guys are about. So that's really cool to hear, and it's has to have been a really uh, special thing for you to kind of be able to experience this last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been crazy, and the more I get into this, the more I realize, like, I definitely have more of, like, an operator brain, so I love making the systems and, like, just kind of trying to make this place function like a machine as much as I can. But you kinda have that nostalgia feeling for when you were first starting up, and I'm in there painting the walls, and, like, our friends are in there, like, helping out with stuff, and it's like, that was fun, like, that was really cool. I didn't know what was coming for me yet, but, um, it's a fun feeling, and it's kinda fun to be a part of the community, and, like, for me, it's meeting other business owners, and we all understand what it's like running a business in Maine in February. It sucks. There's no one there. You don't have any money, but you can all kind of understand and empathize with each other that we're all doing this. And we have a vendor who we get like panini sandwiches from. It's a deli around the corner. And he said something great to me last weekend, our anniversary. I was like Pete, how's like business going at the deli? He's like, man, we have business in the bank. Sorry, we have cash in the bank account in February. I couldn't be happier. Like that's a win. So I think it's really puts things in perspective of like you're not alone in any of this. If you're still afloat, you're still paying your bills, and you can still power through the next day. That's a win.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Ryan, before I let you go, I did want to ask, anything else you wanted to add you think might be important? Anything you guys have coming up? Anything that you think we haven't talked about yet about Argenta that we should touch on?
Um, I guess I'll float in a couple things.
Please.
So yeah, the first thing would be kind of the origin of where Argenta comes from. So like I said, I'm originally from Reno, Nevada. I went to school at the University of Nevada, and my freshman dorm, the name Argenta comes from my freshman dorm at UNR. It was Argenta Hall. So I like to say that's where I had my first beer, is at Argenta. It's kind of like a nod back to my roots in Nevada. And we have like a little bit of a Western theme. Our logo is a cowgirl, and we have cool swinging saloon doors going into our bathrooms. Um, but that's where it comes from. And it's like the term Argenta, the name means silver in Latin, and Nevada is the silver state from a lot of mining back in like the 19th century. So for me, that's just like it's more than just a business. It's like a little piece of where I grew up, where I'm from, and kind of reminds me of that every day. Being in, New England, totally different, literally couldn't be further
Of
in the
course. Yeah.
US. But so it's like that's what Argenta is to me. From like what I care about. The other reason is it's one word, it's easy to remember, it starts with an A. Any beer list, we're gonna be damn near number one. Um and I was trying to think. I was like, I didn't want it to be two words. It's a little too wordy, but I'm happy where it ended up. And funny enough, actually, the original name I had for the brewery was going to be Bristlecone, and this brewery opened in Reno like last year called Bristlecone Brewing, and I was like, that's crazy. Someone else had the same idea, um, which I thought was hilarious. But yeah, that's where the name comes from. And then I know we touched on it a bit, but I really like to emphasize this because it has been so powerful for us, is just learning to do social media and doing it.
Yeah.
I will preface this and say I do not do it nearly enough. If I was able to put out 12 reels on Instagram and 12 TikTok videos a week, I think our business would be substantially busier than it is now. But I mean, and I think you actually brought this up at one point of, is anyone like kind of negatively speaking about being so transparent? And there are people. And I think it's interesting because the comments they bring, like, for example, I made a video about being a founder led brand and like really putting yourself on camera and putting yourself out there. And I got some negative comments about saying that's a horrible strategy. You need to hire someone to do it. And I was like, really? I can't think of a lot of breweries in 2026 who have hired help who are just crushing it on, social media. Obviously, there are some like big ones I know, like New
Of course.
Belgian always puts out great
Yeah.
video. Like there are obviously outliers. If you have enough money, you can,
Right.
and really put emphasis into it. But let's say there's like what 9,000 breweries in the country. It's like the vast majority of them that I see are just putting out like event flyers on their Instagram
Yeah.
or beer pictures. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's not like what you have to do sometimes, but I just film myself working and can get 200,000 views and people come in and buy beer because they saw me cleaning a tank. And I just want to emphasize that because it's so powerful and it doesn't cost me any money to do it. It's like I don't really spend any money on marketing at all. And people show up to our business and want to spend money and spend their time there. That's like the most mind-boggling thing to me. Is like I will literally take a video of me pouring a beer and then it gets like 200,000 views and people come in the next week and said I want to try that beer. And I don't sell it. I'm not doing any sales. I'm literally just like, this is my job. This is what I do every day.
Yeah.
So I think it's very underutilized, and people that are not really proactively taking a part of that, or they're missing out. You're like, if you're really great and you have a great location, you can obviously crush it without. But if you have zero budget and you want to make it happen, that's a great tool.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much opportunity there, right? I mean, the other side of the coin is if a video flops, like if there is a video of you, doing some maintenance at the brewery and it doesn't do well, it doesn't cost you anything. You can go back to the drawing board, put another video out there tomorrow, that does really well. Like there's no real harm in putting yourself out there in that space, because there are going to be people, who uh, are who gravitate towards what you're doing and what you're about. Um, and there there's a there's a lot of opportunity for a lot of breweries to do a lot more of that. And I think
Yeah.
I think you're again, like, the reason why I reached out to you was because you were doing exactly that, being this really transparent brewery owner that I just don't see. I was like, I want to know Ryan's story. I want to know how this all came to be. Um, yeah, I think it's everything about what I've seen from you in the brewery. I think is really awesome. So I just wanted to put that out there, give you some roses. So
But no, I appreciate it. I mean, it's again one of those things where when I started making TikTok videos, I was like, I don't know if anyone's gonna see this. But the big thing too is like when you make a video that like flops, no one saw it anyways. It's
right,
not
right,
Instagram from 10 years ago where you just have a feed. It's very different algorithm now. So it's like it
yeah,
doesn't matter. You can make 30 videos a day. No one's gonna see them if they're bad. It doesn't matter. So it's like if you're afraid of what people think about you, like no one's seeing this anyways. 200 people saw it. It's like no one's seeing that. It's
it
fine. You'll
literally
be okay.
does not matter. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's there's so much going on, so much happening. Like if it one doesn't do well, try again tomorrow. Try again in 30
exactly.
minutes. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
it's the way to do it.
oh man, I love it. Well, Ryan, thank you so much. This has been fantastic. I really appreciated getting some time to talk about everything, Argenta, social media, the whole nine yards. Thank you so much. Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. And anyone's ever up in Portland, Maine, you know where to go.
Yeah, you trust me. Next time, I don't know when the next time I'll be on that side of the country is, but I'll be stopping by for sure.
Fair, fair. I appreciate it, man. Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, Nick. This has been great.
Thank you, Ryan.